Hello. In this video, we are going to be reviewing how to dynamically change the contents of an image on an Excel template. Typically, you would not need to go through these steps for default templates, as any printouts that could include dynamic images, such as the job order, are already configured to do so. However, there may be cases where you would like dynamic images to be included on a custom template. There are two scenarios we'll be going over. In the first scenario, we'll have a list of fixed images that the template will swap between, and in the second scenario, the image will be loaded based on a path specified in the software. To begin with, we'll be adding a placeholder image to the template. Now, any image can be used as a placeholder image. However, we recommend using an image that would not normally print out. That way, if there is an issue with the template, it will be apparent and can be investigated. In this case, we have defined uh, a image that just says the word picture, and that will make it very clear if our dynamic image is not being loaded. All right, now that we have our placeholder, the next step is to create an expression on the config sheet, which will actually determine which image is getting printed. So if we go over to the config sheet, we can see that I already have a couple of useful expressions here. One is rework, which just returns true or false, depending on if the job is a rework. Then we also have a couple of static pictures defined. So the static pictures are just using the picture expression and then the file path to the image to be printed. So to make this dynamic, we need to create a new expression, and I'm just going to call this dynamic pic, but it can literally be anything. And then we're going to create our condition. So we're going to say if this is a rework job, we're going to print the stop pic by default. And if this is not a rework job, then we'll print the go pic by default. Okay, so now that we have our expression, the next step is to update the image to use it when printing. To do this, we just go back to our data sheet, right-click the image, and go to name. And it will have some kind of default name generated by Excel, and we just have to replace that with our expression. Once we've made the changes, we're ready to go ahead and save and preview. Okay, so we can see that our Go picture is printing because this is not a rework job. However, if I was to go into the job order and make it a rework, and we re-preview the label, we'll see that it's now printing the stop picture. So that's just a very simple example of a dynamic image that is using just one condition to swap between two images. However, you could have as many static images as you want and as complex a set of conditions as you want to change between those images. All right. So next, we're going to go over the scenario where we want to load an image that's specified in the software. So within Metfin, we do have a schematic tab, and here we can have a list of images that are related to the part and thus the job order. So in this particular case, um, we have just one image, and we would like that to print out on the label. Um, Now, to do this, we first have to identify where in the database that image is coming from. So we look at the data view, and we can see that that image is specified in the part picked table under the pick name field. So these are the two that we're going to have to use if we want to print out from the database. So I'm going to change our expression to instead say picture table name dot field name. All right, so now we're saying that our dynamic picture will instead just print out whatever file path is specified in partpick.pickname. Now, do note that when we're using an additional table here, the picture image needs to be completely contained within an appropriate named range, in this case, part pick. So in this case, I've already defined a part pick name range, which completely encapsulates the picture. Um, so you just need to make sure that the image is completely within that name range. All right, so if we save and we preview, we can see that it is now loading that image from that path in the software. Now do note that the image is completely filling the space that we had on the placeholder image. So for example, if I made the placeholder image larger, um, and then I would have to also update our named range so that it completely encapsulates the image. And then if I preview again, we'll see that the dynamic image is larger. Now, you can also tell that it is completely filling our placeholder image, whereas the original image may not be square. If we want to respect the original width to height ratio of the source image, we can add the image size tag or expression. So by adding that, that tells the image to respect the original ratio of the picture. Now, the picture is still completely encapsulated within our placeholder, but it's no longer stretching to fill the entire space. So our original image is wider than it was tall, so it is still maintaining that ratio and leaving an empty space down at the bottom instead. Um, so either is fine. You can have it stretch to fill the entire space, or you can have it maintain the original image ratio. Now, some other things that might be helpful is you can conditionally remove the image. So let's say, for example, this is currently still a rework job. So if I add back the um, is rework check, I can tell the template to delete the image entirely if it's a rework, otherwise print the picture. Okay, so here we can see that the image is no longer printing because I added that condition. And if I were to go back and remove the rework check, the image would start printing again. Um, so this is useful in conjunction with the valid picture expression. So if you look at any of our default templates, you'll see that typically they're set up where we do valid picture, passing the dynamic path, and if it's valid, then we print the picture, and if it's not valid, then we just delete the placeholder. So what valid picture checks is it checks two things, whether or not the picture exists at the path specified, and if it is a valid image file. If both of those things are true, then valid picture will return true. Otherwise, it will return false. So in this case, it is a valid picture. So if we preview, the picture will still be there. However, I could change this so it's not a valid picture anymore. Um, so if we come here and let's say just edit the file path slightly, so now this is no longer pointing to a valid image. If I save that and then we try to preview, see that no image shows because no longer a valid image. Um, so yeah, that's really all there is to it. I mean, you do also have the option of having a more useful placeholder image. So, you could have your placeholder image be your default image and only conditionally replace it if you need to. There's a lot of flexibility there in terms of how the image is treated. So just to recap, we reviewed how to dynamically load static images and change them based on a conditional. We've also shown how to dynamically load an image path specified in the database. We've also reviewed how to change the stretching and scaling of that image and how to remove the image if needed. And that concludes this video. Thank you.